Hello, everybody. Welcome to the McAuley Tucker Show. I rebranded myself a bit ago. I was called On the Mic Podcast, and I thought, hey, why not rebrand myself to the McAuley Tucker Show? Today we have a guest. We have my buddy Lake. Lake, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Anything new and interesting happened to you at all today or this week that you'd like to share?
No, nothing too crazy. Just another day of work before the Thanksgiving holiday, which I am super excited about this year. What about you?
Nothing really interesting. And so you mentioned Thanksgiving. What do you usually do for Thanksgiving? You said you were excited for it. So is there something that happens usually during Thanksgiving? You know, something really big aside from your family kind of coming together?
Yeah, it's different every year. Really. I guess in college, what happened was a bunch of my friends from high school. I went to high school in Japan.
Okay.
The ones who moved here, we would meet up in some big American city, and I would usually cook for everybody. And then, I guess after college, I went home most Thanksgivings. And when I wasn't going home, I would go to a college professor's house. He would have me over.
Okay.
Then last year looked a little bit different. Obviously, a friend of mine and I were trapped in Nashville. My best friend, actually. We both had coronavirus around the same time, very similar symptoms. So we decided not to go home since, we were more or less immune to it and didn't know what we were carrying with us. But
Right.
yeah, so I cooked a big dinner for the two of us, and we just watched movies all day. And then tomorrow I'm going to definitely going to go to the professor's house again.
Okay.
And then most of the weekend I have to work my part-time job.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm super stoked. I love food. I love cooking. I love eating.
That's awesome.
I worked in restaurants for a long time, so definitely stoked. Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of things there. So you mentioned that you enjoy cooking. Is that one of the things that you enjoy doing, aside from music? Or is it, and things like that, or is it something that you're good at, but you don't really want to pursue like a job in?
Yeah, so it's definitely at this point more of a hobby than anything. Like I mentioned, I worked in nice restaurants, typically upscale for most of my early 20s, and then picked up a lot of knowledge and skills and stuff there. And I definitely don't want to do it as a job, at least at this stage in my life. Maybe in the future. Right. Yeah, no, it's something I enjoy doing. I enjoy having people over. I like cooking with my girlfriend, and yeah.
That's great to hear.
Nice.
If I were to ask you this, what is your favorite thing to make? Is there something that you've made, regularly when you're making food for people that you like?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of fallbacks, but my all-time favorite's definitely chili.
Ooh,
I've got a pretty robust chili recipe that I've been spending years perfecting, and I would definitely put it up against anybody's chili in a competition.
That's awesome.
Very spicy, but
yeah.
Yeah.
This is a weird question. Since you enjoy making food, what's the weirdest thing in your entire life that you've eaten before?
Oh, good question. I feel like I have a particularly weird story. So one time in high school, we traveled to the Philippines, and our hosts, to show their, I don't know, it was like a welcome gift or whatever ceremony. They gave us balut, which is there considered to be a delicacy. Now, what balut is a fertilized egg that has been allowed to develop a chick inside. And then I think they just hard boil it. And so you kind of just eat it like an egg. But when you open it up, it's got like feathers, and sometimes there are bones that have started to form too, but you just eat the whole thing in one bite if you can. But yeah, that was pretty wild. I mean, it tasted like egg. It was more of a texture thing for sure.
Right.
But that was 100% the strangest or most outlandish, not strange necessarily, I guess, but yeah, different for sure.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So you mentioned you went to the Philippines, and you also, you were raised a bit in Japan. Do you enjoy traveling around, or do you like staying in one place?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like being on my feet, moving around a lot. I definitely am a little bit of a busybody, but I like to travel. I used to fly a lot more than I do now. And when I was in Japan, I think I flew around Asia a lot as well.
Right.
I don't really travel internationally that much anymore, although I do have a Mexico trip planned. But that being said, I do love road trips. So I spent a long part of my early 20s kind of living on the road, just moving from place to place. And then I just along the south, mostly the south of the United States. And yeah, I don't know. I do love that. I love just the feeling of driving somewhere new, somewhere totally, off the map. Like I don't go to big cities much anymore. That sort of lost their appeal for me.
Right.
But I do love going to like little towns. Like a good idea, Let's sleep there.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually have my aunt is from the Philippines, and that's one place that I really want to go. I really want to go to. Is there any place in the Philippines specifically that you enjoyed a lot, like that you visited?
Yeah, so I only went once, but we went to Cebu, and we went to Bacolod. And yeah, Cebu was gorgeous. Bacolod was really great too. I didn't get the chance really just because of the nature of the trip to do a whole lot of exploring, but in Cebu we did a little bit, and it was beautiful. I would love to go again, especially now that I'm an adult. But yeah, no, I didn't get the chance to adventure as much as I would have liked to.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, these places that you visited must be very beautiful, and I've seen from your social medias that you take a lot of pictures. And that's going to kind of go on to a bunch of different questions, but like, what interests you in taking pictures and, being a photographer?
That's a good question. Photography to me is such an interesting medium. And I read the Roland Barthes book, Camera Lucida, last year, and it kind of, it channeled the way that I think about photography in a language, which was really interesting. But he said that all at once, right, photography is both, well, he called it a living, something like a living artifact, where it's a dead image, right? It's a still picture. And so in that sense, the photograph is complete. But then at the same time, there still seems to be something vibrant about it and living and breathing that sort of transcends the moment in time in which it was captured, that still seems to be actively telling us something, as opposed to passively. There is some living part of the photograph. So that's what's so uncanny about photography, I guess, is here it is, it's at a standstill, and yet it's alive. And I think what I like about photography and taking photos is the chance to show that that sublime element that only photography allows. It is uncanny in a sense because, right, it marks the departure from painting, in which there's a clear limitation of the medium, or at least traditionally there was. We're able to capture something as it is. And so the idea that you can use that complete recreation of reality to augment the way reality appears in a way that you would otherwise never see it.
Right.
I think is really cool. Because unlike painting, where you're not really manipulating your environment, you are you're still able to manipulate the environment, in a strange way, even though it's real. Right. And I think that's what I like about photography.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I like how you had a book that you read that you're able to, that gave you some more information about photography in some ways that you can describe it. You mentioned painting. Are you into drawing, or is that drawing things? Or are you just into photography, music, and writing?
Yeah, I sketch a little bit, but nothing seriously. Okay. I always wished I could paint. I do. I would say I draw more seriously than the average person, but I definitely nowadays, especially when you need a tablet, all sorts of year to get started with a career in it. I don't think I would call myself a serious drawer, but I have thought about, for some of the books that I'm working on writing or this and that, I thought it'd be cool to, pepper sketches throughout some of them, just depending on what the book calls for. But it's a thought that I've had. I like how Kurt Vonnegut uses a lot of hand sketch drawings in his books, and they really add to the way the story goes.
Right. When did you start getting into photography? Like, for me, I've always liked taking pictures, but I've never really had a good camera. So I started out at like a point where I had an iPod and I would take pictures. For you, when did you start? When did your interest in photography begin?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it was when I moved back home from Japan. I got my first iPhone. So when I was 18, I got my first iPhone. I think it was an iPhone 4. And it was the first time I'd ever had a phone with a camera in it. I never had an iPod that took pictures.
Right.
And so that was sort of my start, was just like, oh, this is like a camera I already had. That at the time, it was like, now we look back on an iPhone 4 picture and feel like, this is ridiculous,
Right.
But then it was like, high enough quality, at least it seemed like it. So that was my practice. And then it was like, oh, I feel like I've got an eye for this. And so I would, look for like buying a phone with a better camera. And then finally in college, I went ahead and bought myself my first digital camera. It was a Canon mirrorless. The idea was that it's a good transition camera from, iPhone hobby photography to a more traditional kind of digital camera.
Right.
And then I took pictures on that for a while, and then I sold it when I moved to Texas. And then it wasn't really until, I suppose it was 2020 when I got back into photography, because I realized, for reasons unrelated to the pandemic, that photography and art more broadly was something that I missed, and something that I wasn't nurturing like I did when I was younger.
Right.
So I bought a camera, and I bought another camera, and then I bought another camera. Now I've got too many cameras. But I definitely am glad that I'm able to take pictures at the capacity that I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it.
Right. And it's good to have, it's good to, start small and grow over time. Because I know sometimes it's difficult to start the biggest thing. And it's hard to invest your money and time in the biggest thing. You mentioned, so in pictures, in this day and age, there's a lot of things are going digital, right? I don't know lots about it. I don't know a lot about NFTs. I know my friends tell me about it. I'm assuming you do know. Have you ever considered, putting pictures online as NFTs? I've seen people release literal beats and music and pictures of literal cow crap. I kid you not, I saw that one time. It's literal picture of cow crap.
Everybody's just so excited about the novelty of the NFT, they'll bite for anything, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. The NFT doesn't really interest me that much. It seems like just kind of an extension of the, San Francisco Valley tech bro culture.
Yeah.
I know that on Twitter in particular, NFT has a pretty bad reputation. Now, I will say that when NFT first dropped, I was suspicious. I was like, oh, this sound, it's just more of that. But I was sitting at a coffee shop outside one day, and two of the most obnoxious, music marketing bros were. And Nashville's a city full of that kind of personality, just because the music scene is so, corporatized and profit driven. But two music bros sitting at a table, just going on and on and on about virtual marketing, and NFTs, and charting their way to the top and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's enough exposure to NFT for me. So I kind of let it pass through my feed without paying much attention to it. Maybe I'll regret that in years, but
yeah,
maybe I won't. I don't know. Right. It's not something that I'm really interested in. I do think that it demonstrates a way, like you said. So the cow crap NFT. I think it demonstrates the way that our attention is so we don't have much, of an attention span anymore. And so the fact that, these people are purchasing something that they'll only look at for a second for the novelty of the NFT is almost indicative of that. It's like the feeling or the novelty of, or the, I guess, sense that they're participating in some new cultural wave is more important than the thing they would otherwise be focusing on. Since our attentions are so zapped, they don't even have to worry about focusing on it because they're just buying an NFT.
This is very. I think this is a hard question, but you've probably taken lots and lots and lots of pictures. Is there one picture that you've taken, or maybe two or three, that you love out of all the pictures that you've taken, and why do you like these pictures, if so?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So right now I'm in the process of doing a couple of things. One, I'm writing a book. A couple books. One, I'm writing a new album, and kind of put that one on back burner for a little while. I've got some songs almost recorded. And then another thing I'm working on is putting together a print section on my website so that I can sell my photos. And what that has entailed is going through the past, 5 years worth of photos, 6 years, 7 years, 2014. 7 years worth of photography and just finding all my favorites, finding which ones I would want to sell, which ones I would want, to, if all my photography were to go away and I'm dead, and for some reason somebody's to find one of these 20 pictures, like, which photos I would want to use for that purpose, like which photos it'd be important to me that we're seeing. And so I'm in the process of doing that. And so as I do that, I like see all the different photos that I've taken over the years, and I see all the different things I was learning, in terms of photography, or the ways that I was using the camera, or the things that I was thinking about even, or reading. And it's just so interesting. So I guess what makes my favorite photos of mine favorite photos is maybe there's a certain shape or shadow. I use a lot of shapes and shadows in my pictures, and maybe there's a certain way that shape and shadow makes me feel like, and then when I see it, I can imagine where I was when I took the photo, because I feel like my photography, I try to be anyway, very perspectival about it. Like I always think, I kind of want the object of this photo to look like it would if you were to just stumble upon it, right? And so when I see my favorite photos, I remember where I was when I took it, because it's, from my own eye perspective. And then I guess so it can be the shapes and the colors and the shadows evoke emotions. It can be what the picture's about, like if there are particular signs, with lettering on them that say things that are in, like, I don't know, a really dramatic place compared to the rest of the scenery and atmosphere. I can that can make me like a photo more. The composition of the photo. Sometimes I like them to be really minimal. Sometimes I like them to be really dense. It just depends, what it is. But there are any number of things. I think though, what strikes me as interesting is that when I go back, I just see, again, all the changes and developments and stages that I've, passed through as I've grown as a photographer. And I think that's what interests me the most about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for photography, were you self-taught, or did you take any classes?
Yeah, no, I was self-taught. I just really liked the way, again, that photography could allow you to reimagine the world without changing it. And so I just, for me, it was just all experimenting,
Yeah. When I asked that question, I said high school or college. I should have said also university. I'm not sure if you went to college or university, but.
No, yeah, I don't think the distinctions is quite as intense in the U.S. as it is in other places. But yeah, I guess I did go to university. Yeah, but anyway, no, I didn't take any photography class.
Yeah, that's what I've been, a lot, this pandemic. I'm always thinking, hey, you need to take these courses to do this and do that. But you really don't. At the end of the day, you can, most things, you can learn on your own. And that's something that I thought was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think that these online classes and courses for things and this masterclass stuff, I think is kind of silly because it's just like, man, they're just inventing a new con to sell you. What you really got to do is at least just get started. And maybe classes, but
right.
I don't know. Like you say, it just takes doing it.
I like that you said that you're planning on selling some of your pictures online. That's cool. I don't know if you've ever taken pictures for people, like, I'm not sure if you are connected to any like music artists, I sometimes I'm like, hey, I want a certain picture for an album cover. I'm not sure if people reached out, hey, Lake, can you take a picture of this for that reason and that reason? But that's a great way to make money. But it also might be difficult for you. I'm not sure if it's difficult for you because you said, you have these pictures that you've made. Is it difficult for you to like put them out there and say, buy it, take this,
Yeah, it is very difficult. Well, you raise a couple of good questions. So I've shot for bands and artists and stuff in the past, and sometimes paid, sometimes not, sometimes just for, the portfolio. But I think my style was never really conducive to like an artist marketing himself, so it didn't last very long. It was fun to do, but when I shoot people, I find that I want them to be not so much the highlight of the photo. I definitely go after a kind of alienation in my pictures, and I think that part of that means that the person must be second to the environment, which it isn't always the greatest thing, for a biopic or for a headshot. But
right.
I still do like to shoot people, but I'm definitely more of an inanimate object. But that being said, I do also find it kind of difficult to sell my photos because I was always kind of, I don't know, I feel weird. Same with making music, same with anything. I put out a book as a companion to the Pineapple Tours record in April, and I just charge people what it cost me to make it because I, have a job and I make the art because I want to do it, not because I want to get paid to do it. I've always felt that like the moment I get paid to do it, what people want and pay for is going to have more influence over the art that I make, and it won't be completely autonomous. So yeah, in that sense, I do feel very strange selling photos. I don't know if, just going back to the people in the landscape thing, there's a great photographer named William Eggleston from Memphis, Tennessee. And I found him not too long ago, maybe 3 years ago. And that was after I'd stopped shooting people, for the most part. But I found his photos, and I don't think I've ever seen, I guess there are some with people in backgrounds, but yeah, his photos are very similar where there aren't really any people in them. And I don't know, he was just inspiring for me. I'd recommend checking him out just while we were on the subject of people and
no worries. Photos. Yeah, would you say that he is your main inspiration for photography, or would you say there's another person that inspires you the most in photography?
I wouldn't say he is. It's really interesting with him because when I found his stuff, it just felt like finding like a long lost brother or something. This was, like I say, probably 2019, 2018 maybe that I discovered him. He did the photo, and I only learned this recently. He did the front album cover of Big Star's album Radio City.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a great photo, and it totally looks like his stuff. I just never put dots together because they're a Memphis band too. But yeah, no, I never saw his stuff until after I'd been taking photos in a very similar style, and it was like, whoa. But yeah, I mean, there are a couple of photographers that I find really inspiring for different reasons. He's one. Jeremy Crewdson is another one. And then Jean Baudrillard, he's one of my favorite philosophers. Also a fantastic photographer, was. But Jeremy Crewdson's an interesting one because he will spend as much to set up his photographs are like really different than anything that I go for, but in an odd way they evoke like very similar feeling. He will set up, they're very choreographed, he'll set up an entire cityscape. Like he'll commission to get a street shut down, and get the permit or whatever to shut down the street, have somebody take over the stoplights, do exactly what he wants to do. But he creates these scenes of a very remote and alienated America, middle America. And he'll spend as much on getting one picture as studios will spend on like a full Hollywood film. They're really great.
That's crazy.
And and there used to be a documentary about him on Netflix back when Netflix was good, but he's really another one worth checking out. He's just, for no other reason than because it's such an interesting, it's bourgeois as can be, it's definitely not like working class photography. I feel like in that department, Eggleston is like class, he's got a class focus, but
right.
Crewdson's still really good. Now, Jean Baudrillard is really cool too, because he gets a lot of the surrealist stuff that Eggleston gets after, but it's mostly with deteriorated cars, buildings, sort of the remains of Americana, I guess, of American civilization. Like it's death among its life. But
yeah, that's crazy. It's as you said, like they all have different kind of styles. As you mentioned there, they all have kind of different ways of taking pictures and different places and things they take pictures of. I'll make this like my last question regarding photography because I feel like we were kind of talking on that more than anything. Aside from taking pictures, regarding cameras, are you into filming, or is that something that you aren't really interested in and you're more interested in photography?
Yeah, I've never been so much of a film guy. So I don't know, for some reason, like I don't like movies nearly as much as I like photos and books, but obviously I have done some video work before, and like we did a series called Bald Internet Man as a Dade spinoff, but I wouldn't say that I felt that was like artistic. I just thought, it was something fun to do. Maybe like a way to, connect with more people. But as far as a serious art medium, I don't think I've really taken it that seriously before. For my own stuff now, I've been moved by films and stuff, of course, but I guess the closest thing I got was in college, and a couple of times since I've done vlogs, which are honestly more compositional in nature, or mine were, where it was just like, a couple seconds of a still shot and maybe somebody, and like say in a grocery store, I would set up my camera and just focus on an empty aisle, and then, I don't know, 2 seconds into the shot, like somebody walks past at the very end of the aisle and that's it. Like that kind of thing, I've done before, but that's still very much like just moving photography at that point. So not a super serious pursuit.
No worries. Yeah, it's been awesome. Like that photography. It's crazy to hear all these stories and about all these people. That's it's interesting to me. I haven't really sat down and talked about photography that much, but that's really cool. I really appreciate hearing all that. Moving on, like I know you do music. I never really knew that you did music. I remember I've seen your stuff before, but I never knew that you did music. I think the first time I did find out you did music was, I think there was an old video on YouTube and you were playing the guitar. I'm like, oh hey, that's him. And I'm like, oh, he does music. Like how long, like with photography, like how long have you been working on music, and how long has music been a passion of yours, if it is? I'm assuming it is.
Yeah. In high school, I definitely got into it the most. I learned how to play guitar, taught myself some drums. I learned how to play piano, took piano lessons. Then I learned how to play bass. I taught myself how to play harmonica. I did a little bit of fooling around on banjo, but never really got good at it. Yeah, so I guess music I've been doing since I was in high school to like varying degrees. It's like my first love, you know, where like right now I don't feel like I'm in a super musically active stage in my life, but that's just because I got other stuff that I think is more pressing for me for some reason or another. You know, I think this writing has sucked me in for now. But yeah, like even in college, I put out a Pineapple Tours EP. You know, it's funny because I keep like so much of this art stuff is like kind of intertwined with the history of Dade. So I guess there's just really no way to not touch Dade. But like when I put out the first Pineapple Tours EP, like Dade was kind of at the height of his popularity. And so the first EP did really well, but I used the internet as such like I guess an audience that nobody in my like day-to-day real life really knew anything about me playing music. Because I moved to Nashville, like went to a school where lots and lots of musicians, like it's one of the top 5 music schools in the country. You know, this and that, like I'm surrounded by music. So I was like, well, I'm not going to try to compete with the rat race. And so I just went online when things were working out with that first EP. And then one of my friends heard it just because I mentioned it in passing. It was when we were starting to become friends. And he was the reason that we started playing Outlive, you know, as a band. And so that was a whole new stage in the music. It is that we got to a point where we were considering going on tour. I think looking back now, if we had been as smart about it as we could have been, then it's definitely something we would have done.
Right.
But yeah, we played a lot. We headlined some cool venues, and that was, I guess, when I was 21, 22, 20. But yeah, right there in that pocket, music got extremely serious for me.
Yeah, that's cool that you have the opportunity to perform on venues. That's one thing. Like, if I were to have like a list of like things that I want to accomplish in life, that's one of the things that it's just really weird. It sounds really silly, but like I want to be able to perform or be on a stage in front of a huge audience. Like I don't know how many people would be there, but just a lot of people. And it's cool to hear that you've had the opportunity. I don't think I have. Like, you know, my church would do when I was younger. They would do like talent shows, and I would do puppets and stuff. But like I never had the opportunity to be on a big stage, and that's one thing for me at least that I would love to do.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah. For music, growing up, did any of your friends or family, you know, did they have a passion for music as well? Did they like music, or was it difficult for you because your friends might have not liked it?
I think growing up, you know, my friends like music. Everybody likes music, but lots of my friends, and I think like the popularity of Guitar Hero video games back when I was like 13, 14, definitely got a lot of dudes my age like, ooh, I want to get a guitar. But so lots of us picked up the axe at the same time, you know, and we like learned together. We like compared riffs and stuff, mostly playing like only classic rock back then.
Okay.
You know, at the very beginning, like Iron Maiden and stuff. But then I guess, yeah, my family was not musically oriented. Like I think my stepmom had like taken piano lessons, and my grandpa sang a lot. He was always a good singer, but he never played anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just something that I felt like I wanted to do.
Right. For favorite music genre, I know that you know the guitar, and is there a specific genre that you like of music? I remember looking up online your band, and you listed it as lo-fi. I thought that was cool. Lo-fi is a genre that I really love, like, you know, ukulele, like static, like just lo-fi is one of my favorite genres. And when I've listened to your music, for me at least, listening to like this sounds really, it sounds like I don't know how to describe it. So I was just gonna ask you, like, what what's your favorite genre of music?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely listen to a lot of like folk music, lots and lots of rock, but not like rock after maybe 1972. I
Okay.
like I don't know, like rock and roll is an embryo. Like I love Chuck Berry and um, Albert King, and then moving on into the 60s, I love the Rolling Stones, all their stuff up until the album Goat's Head Soup. I love Bob
Okay.
Dylan. Bob Dylan's my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Particularly love the Big Three albums, but then even like John Wesley Harding, where he's just singing these really long poems with this rock band and an acoustic guitar. It's just, well, it's not, it's a rock band, but it's not, it's him, a bassist and a drummer.
Right.
But yeah, that sound for me is like really magical for some reason. I like, and I think the Mountain Goats do a really good job with that as well, that kind of sound. At least they used to early on. But there is one album, and I can't remember if it's, I think it's All Eternal's Deck, where it's a very spare folk rock and roll band where it's like him on guitar, a drummer, a bassist, maybe some kind of symphony. I don't know, but yeah, I love like really minimal stuff. And so it's interesting you bring up lo-fi because, you know, I remember when lo-fi actually meant low fidelity, and, you know, you had all these independent artists recording on not the most ideal setups, but now lo-fi is almost just taking on this meaning as like internet R&B that's extremely high fidelity and has, you know, you can hear the money, but it's, yeah, I don't know, I guess because I'm trying to think, yeah, so I do like lo-fi, like early indie rock as well. Then I listen to a lot of classical music. I listen to a lot of like sound art. I went through a phase where I listened to a lot of really avant-garde stuff when I was, I guess, in senior year of college and then right after. But I'm not really averse to anything. As I get older, I get to like country a lot.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask that. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you liked country, if that was a genre that you liked.
Yeah, it's definitely something I actually love country. I didn't always, and I think I was a little hesitant to get into it. But I think with country music, at least as far as I've experienced it, there's this kind of like irony involved in listening to it, where it's like it is sincerely good, and it's genuine and it's wholesome for the most part. You know, and I'm talking about classic country mainly. I don't really listen to the new stuff, the pop charts anyway. But so there is this really genuinely good quality of it, but then there's also just like this funny performative element. Like if you listen to the Buck Owens song Act Naturally, it's all about, you know, it's this famous guy, Buck Owens from Hee Haw, singing about how they're going to put him in the movies, they're going to make a big star out of him, the biggest fool who's ever hit big time, and all he's got to do is act naturally, right? Like all he's got to do is act like himself. And it's really funny. Like it's good, but it's funny too. And I think there's just this like capacity for humor in country music that doesn't really exist. I mean, I think probably exists in like hip hop circles and stuff too, but not in like rock and roll, you know, not in classical music. Like I think too about the Rolling Stones doing country. They have this song called Faraway Eyes, and it's just hilarious, you know. And I don't know, I feel like it just has this capacity that you know, to be funny at the same time as it's good.
Right. Yeah, it's cool that you brought up that about like country. My on my mom's side, my uncles and my grandfather, they had like good voices for music. My uncle Gary, he's into country. I'll send you in the Zoom chat. I was just gonna send it to you just for fun because hey, why not? He plays the guitar and he would just sing country. That's one of the songs called Downtown Blues. He told me about how he wrote that because I think his cat ran away, like his cat just left, didn't come back, and he kind of wrote a song called Downtown Blues. You know, skim through that. Listening to it, there's different types of country. You know, I don't know how to say it if there is, but like, I don't know. I just like this. This is a type of style of music I like.
What, the Downtown Blues?
Yeah, I don't really know. He says he's country, and so I'm assuming.
Do you want me to listen to it right now and see?
Sure. I mean, not the full thing. You can listen through if you like.
Yeah, I wanna hear it.
Three singer sings to an empty room.
I like it a lot. Definitely say it's like folk, but I guess country means different things to different people. You know?
Yeah.
Definitely has the twang though, because folk's such an interesting kind of music genre where it like inherited so much from like Celtic music too, where
Right.
you know, what I associate with folk is because folk's just all encompassing, right? Like every country has folk music, every nation, every group of people, and it all sounds so vastly different. So when we refer to folk as like being somehow related to Americana or something, typically I tend to think of like, you know, the the Irish influences and the like, I don't know, the like the bluesy Southern influences that whatever that it picked up. But I think where I like folk the most is where it has like a twang or a country kind of bluesy chords and like dominant sevenths and stuff. And yeah, I do like this this song that you're. It reminds me of Glenn Campbell, kind of like wistful and like you can feel the time passing.
Yeah, I love that. Was like one of the only songs that I listened to by him. Like I love this. Like the chorus is like I don't know why I compare things to different things, like really weird things.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to this one, it gave me American Pie vibes, the way it's sung.
I could see that. Yeah, that's kind of what it's given me to, something like that.
You'll always be downtown where the blues live.
Yeah, like for sure. Like it's got that, you know,
Yeah.
kind of zestful Americana kind of feeling. It's full of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lo-fi, I'm not really sure if you follow a lot of the lo-fi circles, but I've heard a lot of lo-fi producers saying that it's a dying genre. I'm not sure if you would agree with that. It's not like it's going down, like there's not a lot of lo-fi producers, but the genre is like it's not really known to people anymore.
Yeah, I mean it was definitely like a moment in history that I think is more or less gone now. Even like I say, where it seems like to me anyway, where lo-fi survives, it's very much like a chill lo-fi beats to study to or whatever, you know, it's just background noise. Like,
Right.
But when I think lo-fi, I think of like, I don't know, just some of the very small indie bands that were recording with terrible gear, you know, that have like 1,000, 3,000 followers on Facebook or whatever, you know, platform that where it's just very harsh audio quality. But, you know, and I think as far as that's concerned, yeah, absolutely it's dying because all people seem to care about, you know, the quality has to be better now. It has to be louder. It has to be what they're doing, like multi-dimensional audio, 8D or whatever. Like it's all about fidelity. And I don't know. I don't really care about that. You know, when I was 14, I was listening to like Bob Dylan and the band on the basement tapes before it was remastered. So it was just like all these wet tapes that had just been, you know, captured back, and like it sounded like junk, but I've never really cared about fidelity. So I do feel like in that way, like, yeah, I might be an odd bird. But it does seem like, yeah, like the days when an entire musical genre was marked by just all these people getting access to GarageBand and uploading their music to LimeWire or whatever, and people finding it that way, you know, that does seem to be very much a thing of the past, like a way that, you know, people don't really engage with the internet in the same way. People don't really engage with music in the same way. So,
right.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's cool to see that. Like, I looked up lo-fi right now, and I find this hard to believe, but it says lo-fi first came out about during the 1950s as a new wave of amateur musicians began making recordings on shoestring budgets. That's like, and it's got like a song here from 1968. I'll listen to that later. Like,
Interesting. I didn't know that it stretched back that far for sure. I thought it was like maybe the 80s, but that makes sense. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it says here the song that I actually just said 1968. It's the Beach Boys. Wake the World. It says this is supposedly lo-fi. I don't think I've heard this song before, but I don't know. I'll listen to that later. But yeah, it's pretty remarkable to see that. This is a very silly question. I just thought I'd ask it just for fun because I enjoy rap music. I like all genres, but old school boom bap, like jazz and like, record scratching. I much prefer that over trap music. But have you ever tried rapping before? It's a really silly question, but have you ever tried rapping before? Is it something you've tried?
I've never tried rapping before. I know 100% without a shadow of a doubt it is something I would not be good at least right off the bat. But I know I left hip hop out of my favorite genres. I like hip hop, and there are some albums that I go back to, and I have a couple in the car, on CD that I'll pop in from time to time. It's just it's not a genre that I listen to a whole lot, but I enjoy it. And that's the other thing too, is that nowadays when I listen to music, I don't really have it on very much except when I'm writing. And I don't know, and I don't like music with words in it while I write. But no, anyway, to answer your question, I don't rap. I have never really tried, and I would be embarrassed to give it a shot right here for sure.
Mm-hmm. I also know that you're a writer. This is a nice transition question to the writing process. Like aside from rap, I really enjoy, and I'm not sure if you've ever listened to this type of music before, and I can definitely send you examples later on, but the type of rap music that I listen to, and it's definitely a genre that I find hard to listen to with my friends, but it's more of a spoken word, poetic, slow pace kind of rapping. Things like that. And I know that you're a writer, and so has spoken word interest you? I'm not sure if you've listened to any spoken word, but
I've never really listened to spoken word before, to be honest with you, no. I don't know, because I've gone to readings and stuff, poetry and like literature, like fiction readings, and I always feel so out of place there, where the writer is like reading their work to me. And I feel the same way about audiobooks and stuff, where it's like the whole point should be to engage with the text yourself, as opposed to have it given to you as a performance.
Right.
There does seem to be like a barrier that keeps the text from being like existentially relevant or sinking its hooks in quite the same way, I think, when somebody's reading or performing the text to you, because then they change it however they want it to be perceived, right? Like they're heightening certain cadences based on how they're hearing it in their heads. But I think the remarkable beauty of writing a written word versus a spoken word is like you can read the same words and accentuate different cadences and give significance to different things than other people would, and that's what makes a text so beautiful. And I guess, in my opinion, like spoken word kind of loses that really cool quality of writing.
You're a writer, and I've read a few of your things that you've written. When did that take place? When did you say, "Hey, I want to write"? Because I've had that where I'm like, I want to write, but I've never been able to finish things because I get lazy. Like, when did you start writing, and how are you able to stay motivated?
Yeah, I guess I've written most of my life. I look back at, like, in school, I would write a lot. In elementary school, when we journaled or whatever, when there was a segment of the class devoted to journaling. I always loved, like, English class was one of my favorites, and I never wrote in any organized way back then. But, in middle school, when we moved on to writing, larger, more comprehensive pieces of work to satisfy like state requirements or whatever. Like we had to write 3 short stories one year, and the next year we had to write like 4 poems or whatever, this or that. And I always took it very seriously, even though it was just some, like school requirement. I still, I worked on them a lot. And then in high school, there was a certain time, both playing music and with writing, where it was like, no, this is something that I want to do. And then, and I guess in college it just kind of happened. I think I got really into books senior year of high school, and then I may have written my first short story. It may have been freshman year of college, so it may have been a little bit later than high school. But yeah, I mean, from that point I was all in. Then I stopped for a little while from sophomore year to senior year, I think, or junior year. Junior year I got back into it. I discovered a resurgence of literary interest on the internet, on Twitter, in the community that is now gone, but it was called outlive. It's gone for like lots of different reasons, some of them definitely warranted, but and then I really started writing a lot. Then I moved to Texas. I stopped writing, got really into a career, and moved back to Nashville. And eventually I realized that I was putting a lot of creative energy into my career that I missed putting into writing. And so I guess over the last 2 years I've really ramped up the writing. I always knew I wanted to write a book about Texas after I lived there, and so I'm getting to the point where it's almost finished, so it's very exciting.
Let's go. I can't wait to see the finished product. You mentioned journals. My dad gave me a journal, and he gave us, all the kids in the family, a journal. I think it was 2018, I think. And for you, do you continue to write in your journal? For me, I haven't. I'm just curious if you.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I use it in different ways. Like when I'm not, like right now, I like to write my first draft of all my stuff down with my hand on a paper, because it changes the way that I engage with it. So like at a stage like the one I'm in now, where I'm done writing new stuff and just solidifying old stuff, I find that I'm just typing on the computer because, I'm revising and editing. But when I'm not at that point, which I'm not usually at that point, this is like new for me, to have such a large body, like piece of work, first of all, to keep going over, but most of the time I'm not in this stage of writing. I'm usually coming up with the first draft, or just walking around tossing ideas around, or just writing about my day. And in those cases, I always have a journal on me. I started doing that again this week. This is my current journal. Just collect thoughts, things that I hear that I like, turns of phrases, new ideas, new takes on old ideas. If I read a chapter of the book that I'm working on now, for instance, and I don't love it, I'll rewrite it in the journal. But yeah, I would say that I journal every day. It's very important to me.
Okay. Yeah. And for writing, for me, I'm just curious if this applies with you. Like, do you, like, when I was younger, I would just like sit there and just boom, an idea right in my head. I don't know why. Maybe I looked at a tree, maybe I saw a person walking, and just an idea pops into my head, and like I come up with like a character, and I don't come up with a full plot, but a character pops into my mind in a situation, maybe their job. Is that the same for you? Because I've had the opportunity to actually keep all these ideas in this palm-sized book. You can't see it, but it's a palm-sized book, and I just write down the title of the story, and when I read it, I instantly remember what the idea was. So I'm not sure how you keep track of your writing ideas.
Yeah, so I mean, certainly start from a similar point. So for instance, in this book I'm working on now, there's a character called Buck Owens, who is not the Buck Owens country singer. He just happens to have the exact same name. But so like you, I get these characters and these situations in mind, and then I start asking myself questions like, well, what would have to happen for this character named Buck Owens to find himself in the exact same life circumstances as the country singer Buck Owens, just completely accidental? And then, from there I start drawing lines. It's like, well, he has to be a showman of some kind. But he can't just be any showman, because Buck Owens was already a country singer and a movie star. So, well, maybe he does magic on stages in Vegas. So then it's like, well, what gets him to Vegas? Well, he's a trucker. And so it's like, just like you say, you just pick sort of this character, pluck him out of the air, and then you've got him. Well, now you gotta fill in his surroundings, his environment, his circumstances. I guess, yeah, it's been really interesting, because this novel is unlike anything else I've ever written before. It takes place from, I guess, 6 or so different perspectives, and so it's a lot to keep up with. And so it's like just having one solid, coherent document in which I can write all the stuff that happens to Buck Owens, and then another one where I can write all the stuff that happens to so-and-so, and then another one for, this person and this person and this person. But usually, I guess when I'm not writing stuff that's quite as long or difficult, I just keep track of it, in my head mainly. I don't like to outline a story. I feel like it makes it, I kind of want it to wander. I usually have the outline in my head anyway, so the outline can change as the story unfolds,
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's sort of the beauty of it too, is not being able to keep track of it in your head sometimes leads to a better outcome. So yeah, just
right.
Things like that.
Yeah, that's really great to hear that you've been able to come up with such ideas. We are a product of everything that we've learned in our life. What 2 books would you say have impacted your life the most? Because I'm assuming that you read a lot, because you mentioned about philosophy and all this crazy stuff. Like, what 2 books would you say in your entire life helped you?
That is a very difficult question. If I had to answer it, I might say Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut and The Sickness and the Death by Soren Kierkegaard.
Okay. Why would you pick those 2 books?
Well, because they're perfect books. But I don't know, Breakfast of Champions has it's an amazing text. It's Kurt Vonnegut puts himself into the story in and among the characters who don't know that he's the writer. It investigates the relationship between God and man, between writer and writing, between, I don't know, all sorts of things.
Right.
Then Sickness and I don't know, it's sort of like a proto-existential text by one of the grandfathers of existentialism, Kierkegaard, but he wasn't an existentialist. He was a very dark thinker, but he was also a very positive thinker, which is not typically remembered when he's discussed. But this is perhaps Kierkegaard at his darkest. He wanted to show the terrifying possibilities that human thought could take, that sort of psychological apparatus could be applied to, just like worldly darkness and depression, despair. He spends that book is literally, he talks about despair a lot. That book's about just existential despair and being alone in the world. And yeah, I don't know. It's a dark book for sure, but I like it.
Right.
It challenges you to think, and it also examines the relationship between man and God, and the writer and the writing, and all these sorts of things. So.
Right. One question that I had, looking at your bio on your story right here, the end of the telescope, this was an interesting question. It says at the end, I'm going to butcher some of these words here, aesthetic theory, and hermeneutic continuity of existence, postmodern. Like, what exactly are these? What are those?
Yeah, so aesthetic theory is basically the theory of mean, you can boil it down very simply to the philosophy of art, but it originates with Immanuel Kant. At least he's the one who came up with the term, for aesthetics, and sat down and said that he was doing aesthetics. Initially was meant as the study of beauty. So beauty, right? One thing that kind of like what you were talking about when you mentioned, coming up with character ideas or whatever, where one thing for some reason seems to pop out from all the rest, right? And so while examining what it is about that thing that makes it seem beautiful or makes it seem particularly deserving of observation. And so that's kind of what aesthetic theory is, just the examination of form with orientation toward beauty. Hermeneutic continuity of existence is, hermeneutics has to do with interpreting and then enacting interpretation, which is again then interpreted, and then acting, which is again then interpreted, right? It's all about this interpretive cycle of being. And so when we talk about existence, I'll give you the most basic examples. When you go to bed at night, right, and you wake up, it seems like you as a thinking thing have occurred in two different spaces. But somehow there is some continuity that binds the two, right, that brings them together as a single unified thing. And that's a sort of interpretive process or interpretive agent. So in that sense, just existing, right. is a sort of hermeneutic continuity, a continuity of interpretation. And so just selfhood and how the self understands itself.
Yeah, I find this all fascinating. Yeah,
it's fun. It's cool.
Right. Let me see. I'm trying to think about any other questions. I had a few random questions, but I didn't have a way to fit them in the conversation. Do you run a bar? Like you said something about I'm not really sure exactly what that was, but I see you posting about at the bar. Do you run one or do you just go to one?
I go to many, but I have a friend who owns one, and I work there. That's my part-time job. So
okay.
Yep, I got really very serious about a bartending career for a while, and I was submitting to drink competitions and stuff, and was going to get a bunch of certifications until 2020 rolled around. That's when things changed a little bit. But yeah, I still do work part-time as a bartender. It's fun.
That's really great. What is your favorite adult drink? What's your favorite adult drink and why?
Beer, just because it's you need more of them to do serious damage. It's delicious, and they make beer that tastes like everything now. I don't know. It's relaxing. Nothing like it. Just a couple of friends hanging around, having a couple beers. Yeah, I know you're young. It's still a long way.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
To the listeners who are maybe listening up to this point, what's one thing you would like to pass to them? Those are
one thing I would like to pass on to them.
For you to answer.
I would say, ooh, that's a tricky one, man. I would say, I would just quote Clint Eastwood in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly when he says, "Man's life in the..." No, it's not even The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's A Fistful of Dollars. He says, "A man's life in these parts often depends upon a mere scrap of information." And I've always liked, yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I'll kind of end the recording right here. Thank you so much, Lake, for coming on for the first episode of the transition from the podcast to this.
Well, thanks for having me. It was nice to talk to you, and thanks for sending me Downtown Blues.
No worries. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll include the your links in the description, and people can check you out. But yeah, until next time, you guys have a great rest of your night and having a great day tomorrow.